Hello, fellow historians. This is Kay Johnson, and I'm doing an oral history report this morning on my husband Richard, who spent time in Vietnam in the from 70 to 71. And first thing I want to do is show some artifacts from the time that he spent over there. This is a flight bag with his unit insignia on it. This is a photograph of him. He would be second from the left, sitting on the Huey. And this is during relaxation time. Rich on the right and a friend of his on the left. And this is a bunker where they would go when needed. And now this is my husband Richard. And his these are artifacts. His helmet that he wore.
I'm not going to a Halloween party.
This is his helmet and flight suit that he wore in Vietnam.
I'm a living artifact. And the only reason I'm wearing this is because my wife promised me an apple pie if I would dress up like this. Otherwise, trust me, I wouldn't be dressed like this.
Okay, have a seat. Let's have some questions here. First question is, tell us about your decision to join the Army and your decision to go to flight school. Two questions, but I'll let you answer both of them.
Yeah. Well, I graduated from high school in 1965 and did a couple of semesters at a junior college and decided that I was not mature enough, or they did, to handle academia. And so I left. The draft was, it's now 1966. Draft is going great guns, and I know I'm going to get drafted because I no longer have a deferred status. A friend of mine once said, who was a professor up in Virginia, said, the Vietnam conflict created more PhDs than any conflict ever in this country. I thought that was very appropriate. A lot of people stayed in school to keep from being drafted. But I joined the Army in 1966, and you have to take a battery of tests, and I went to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, took some tests, and was asked if I would like to go to officer candidate school. I had sufficient test scores to go, and I said yes, and I went to infantry AIT at Fort Lewis, Washington, and then was later assigned to Fort Benning, Georgia for infantry OCS. I graduated in August of 1967 from OCS. It was a 6-month program then, and I really enjoyed the discipline and the camaraderie. So I wanted to be an airborne ranger, special forces, snake eater, and go to Vietnam. And so upon graduation, most of my class went to the 101st Airborne Division as they were deploying another brigade to Vietnam. And for some reason, I ended up going to Germany to an airborne outfit in Europe. And went over there and went to several schools, jump master school, etc. Loved the infantry. But I made the mistake of riding in a helicopter and just fell in love with that. And so I wanted to go to flight school. I had never flown before, not a private aircraft or especially a helicopter. So I ended up being accepted into flight school and started flight school in July of 1969. Now most of my OCS classmates are already back from their first tour in Vietnam and fixing to go on their second tour. And I'm just now starting a 9-month flight school program. Most of the people that entered the Army when I did and were in flight school, most of their fathers were World War II, Korean War veterans. So it was just an accepted thing that you would go and serve your country when called upon, being in a drafted or enlisted or a joint status, regular Army status. So that's kind of how I ended up going in the Army.
Okay. Give us an overview of a typical soldier's tour of duty in Vietnam.
Well, when I went to flight school, I'll back up a little bit. I went to flight school on a temporary duty assignment with a permanent change of station to Vietnam. So I knew when I put in for flight school, I was going to Vietnam. So, but the units in Vietnam, unlike today, when they deploy to a conflict or a situation today, they deploy as a unit. When we went to Vietnam, you went 1, 2 people at a time. So it was a 1-year, 12-month tour, unless you volunteered to extend. So you had about a 10% turnover every single month of personnel. That would probably tend to not being able to establish close relationships, but it was the opposite was just true. You learned to go very close to people, especially during adverse situations that you both encountered and went through. And I mean, you were with people 24/7.
Okay, talk about the mission that aviation units performed in Vietnam.
Well, there was aviation units, and I was a helicopter guy. I was a captain, uh, and a captain in aviation units were normally platoon commanders, operations officers, executive officers, those things. I started out as a platoon commander. I was in an assault helicopter company. There was assault helicopter companies, which were Hueys. We had Hueys and gunships in the same organization. And then you had cavalry units, which had little scouts and gunships in it, and they were the reconnaissance element. Then you had a medium lift organization, a company, which were Chinooks. They were the twin rotor, big things that hauled, did a lot of resupply and hauling a large amount of troops, but not so much in combat, but more of a combat support element. And then there was the last unit was aerial rocket artillery. That was gunships, Cobras, that provided nothing but aerial fire support.
Okay, specifically, what were the type missions your unit was tasked with?
Trying to get rid of cats.